We know all about Alpha's backstory. Lydia likes eating worms, and another fan favorite character is apparently leaving The Walking Dead. We're talking about all that and more. I'm Brandon Davis. You're watching After the Dead. Yes, welcome to After the Dead, ladies and gentlemen. Janelle Wheeler is here.
Hello.
As every Sunday night, I'm excited she's here. I'm Brandon Davis. Please call me BD. We do this every Sunday night. Please share our show with your friends so we can continue to do fun stuff and talk to actors and all that fun stuff we like to do. Episode 9-10 of The Walking Dead Omega is in the books. We like to start each show with a reaction. I encourage you to share yours. Janelle, what's going on? What did you think?
Alpha, I'm so excited. I'm so pumped to get a little bit of her backstory. And also, I'm excited to see her face with it, like with the mask removed, because her flesh is like starting to be, I guess, like eaten away or something. Her face is getting messed up, probably from wearing zombie flesh. But curious thing that I was like in my own mind, I was taking notes and I was like, well, why is Alpha's face kind of like damaged from wearing walker skin and then Lydia's is not? Right?
That's a question for Greg Nicotero.
Yeah.
Get Greg on the phone. Hey, control room. Get Nicotero on the phone. We got to ask him what the hell's going on with that. But no, I thought tonight was actually, I think we got these first two episodes kind of out of the way. I enjoyed them, but I think it's setting up for next week to be the one where things kind of, especially with how this episode ended.
I'm ready for
with the
it.
Hilltop, and she's coming back for her daughter. We'll talk more about this episode in just a second, but first, a big topic from this week is that Kari Payton, King Ezekiel, is reportedly leaving The Walking Dead. Now, this is news to me, and these are things I usually hear about. I don't know when it became so common to start talking about actors leaving the show. We know Denai Guerrera is leaving in season 10. We knew Andrew Lincoln was leaving ahead of time. We knew Lauren Cohen was leaving ahead of time. And also, I mean, just another big actor, Chandler Riggs, left, and that was a shocker. But now apparently King Ezekiel is going to leave. The report came from a website called We Got This Covered. They said that Kari Payton has been notified that he's going to leave the show in either season 9 or 10.
What?
I can tell you he doesn't leave in season 9.
Good.
So maybe that's a spoiler that he's not leaving this season. But maybe he is leaving in 10. I reached out to his reps. They declined to comment, which makes me a little worried if I'm being honest, because usually they would squash something like that. But also at the same time, if they do comment, then it's like, oh yeah, no, he's not dying. So they can't really say anything either way. But I find this very surprising because Denai Guerrera, in talking to her, Michonne, I get a vibe that she is ready to move on from this show. In talking to Kari Payton, I have never felt anything but a love for The Walking Dead and excitement and enthusiasm.
He's
He
always
loves
fired
being
up.
a part of the show. The fans love him. I don't know how many more characters fans love that this show can afford to get rid of. And the report said that this was a writing choice, not an actor choice.
Right. That's what I was about to ask you.
So I think on this one, we're going to have to wait and see. I don't have the answer right now. And if I did, I probably wouldn't give it to you outright unless it was that he was staying.
Time to start the petitions now.
Yeah.
Send them. Don't let this happen.
Well, that's the good thing is that if you are a fan of King Ezekiel and this news came out and it was true that they're gearing up for production on season 10 in about 2 months, and this news came out and all the fans are flipping out saying they don't want Kari to leave, maybe that could help and save him. You never know. But it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. The popular theory is that King Ezekiel is going to get his comic book death, which is, you know, the head on the Pike, all of that. So I'm not going to say whether or not he gets this, but you know, it's come this moment. The Pikes are coming soon, obviously. So we will see if his head is on a Pike. I'm just going to say don't be surprised if they change things up.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes me happy. I'm comforted.
Speaking of Ezekiel, and therefore also speaking of Carol, his queen, there was a comment early in tonight's episode by Lydia that I wanted to go back to. She said Henry's mom sounds tough, just like her mom.
Yes.
So I want to pose a question to you and to everybody watching After the Dead right now. Carol versus Alpha.
Ooh.
These are two of the toughest characters on the show.
Right.
Who wins that fight?
Well, if you are not a comic book reader, I would say we don't know enough about Alpha yet to really judge that in the right way, because we know Carol. We've seen her from the start. And that comment, like you said, how she cut her hair, you know, so that she couldn't be thrown against. I mean, we know where that backstory is coming from. And Alpha, like everything was just thrown at us tonight. Everything. Like we need to see more of her. I need to know more about this chick to really. I mean, Carol's my girl. I just can't imagine anyone beating out Carol.
Well, if the signs of original cast members leaving the show is any indication, Alpha might win that fight. But I think they're very similar characters. Alpha seems obviously much more barbaric. She's much more eager to let things go, whereas Carol was kind of trained pre-apocalyptically to not get attached to things because of Ed being a total dick. R.I.P. Ed. See you later.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, and I really do love the line where Henry tells Daryl about why Carol used to cut her hair because Ed used to use it to abuse her, and now she's finally reached a place where she can feel comfortable growing her hair out. That says a lot about her relationship with King Ezekiel.
It does.
And just this family in general. Like just near any of them, she feels safe now, which is crazy because she was married and in the pre-apocalyptic world didn't feel safe.
Right.
Now, when there's zombies and all these threats, she feels safer. But listen, you mess with Carol's family, you don't mess with. We saw what happened to Terminus.
We're seeing so much, like, I kind of like that they're bringing in, like, mental health in some ways. They're working in, abusive relationships and things like that. And even with Lydia, we were noticing, or I noticed that, the bruising and all of that. And she finally gave up hope pretty quickly that her mom didn't care about her and she wasn't going to come back for her. And I don't know, I'm really, like, surprised at. I liked Daryl's comment. I put it in my notes, speaking from experience. Some people ain't meant to be parents. Like, that's so true. And Daryl's parents were not cut out to be parents either. We know this about his backstory. So I really like that the show is kind of like doing these underlying, like, topics that can be applied in the real world today. Like, people are struggling with mental health, people struggle with abusive relationships, and to highlight them on a show like this, it gives it a platform for it to reach people who might be struggling with this stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's really the writing has really picked up the season because we've seen Daryl now talk about these parenting issues with Lydia. And earlier this season, Aaron was telling him you'd make a good father. And now he's talking about how his father used to beat him and how he has all these issues. And that's probably what's steering him away from even considering that. Not that I would recommend being a parent in this apocalyptic world anyway. We have enough kids and Rosita's about to pop another one out.
Oh, no.
Who knows who's the father? At least we know it's not Daryl. Maybe it is. Who knows?
I mean, the crying baby is what saved Henry.
Right.
She's about to, like, go all hammer on him. Yeah.
Or maybe just have a bunch of babies. The Whisperers won't kill you, apparently. But actually, let's talk about the Whisperers. They have this origin story shown tonight. Alpha is just an absolute savage. She killed her own husband. That's insane. And obviously, Lydia remembered it differently. This is all unique to the TV series. None of this happened in the comics. We don't get Whisperer backstory in the comics. So this is all kind of just Angela Kang flexing her story writing muscles, I think.
I love it.
Yeah, it was cool. But I do want to say, I think this was kind of just like a cheaply repurposed Sanctuary set.
Yeah.
It really seemed like this flashback was the Sanctuary just with a bunch of towels hanging to kind of hide things. But that kind of frustrates me because I love flashbacks. I would have liked to see more of them out somewhere.
Right.
They spent at least 43 days or something in this compound. I would have really loved it if we could have seen flashbacks to those early days of the apocalypse. And then wherever they're from, it sounds like they're somewhere from the South, obviously given Samantha Morton, the accent she has on the show. But also, you were watching this and you saw her without the mask for the first time. You were like, oh my God, I love her!
I love her.
Wait, what show did you see?
So she is the lead character on Harlots. It's a Hulu original, and she plays a similar role. She's in charge of a bunch of girls. She's like the head of a house for prostitutes.
Ooh.
And back in the day, she's wearing the hoop skirts and the huge wigs, and she is such a badass on that show too. That I hate that I already have this, like, idea of her because I love her. Like, I love her character on there. So now I'm kind of like, oh my God, am I Team Alpha? Like,
No, don't be Team Alpha. Do not be Team Alpha. It's not good. But when I was on set, I got to see her in action. And it was her and it was Samantha Morton and Cassidy McClincy and a bunch of random whisperers and walkers. And just hearing her talk in person as a whisperer, not as, a person, but in character wearing the mask and it was a scene from the comics where she says, it's coming up. I was on set for episode 9/12, so you'll see that 2 weeks from tonight. But they're walking through the woods, and she says something like, "They made you take off your mask." And like, that's a terrible accent. I'm sorry, Samantha Morton, if you're watching. You sounded way better than that. But it was just so cool to see her in action. And everybody who has worked with her is giving her so many compliments about her work and her intensity on set. She's apparently scaring people, like scaring
She's
actors.
like scary even on this Harlots show. I mean, she is a dominating woman. Like, she is amazing. I love her. Oh, I'm so excited.
And I talked to Greg Nicotero last week, as you saw on After the Dead. He is a huge fan of how these masks suspend any emotion, but she has such intense blue eyes that they come right through the mask, and they finally show you that there is someone back there, but you can't read them at all.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at the end of the episode, she shows up at the hilltop. Obviously, things are about to hit the fan. Next week, hopefully, we get a pretty firecracker episode. I'm not going to say much, but I think we're in for some good stuff.
Yeah, I'm just so curious. Are they going to bring them behind the walls? It seems like they're trying to negotiate. What are they going to do?
This is straight out of the comics.
Oh, my God.
This is all straight out of the comics. I'll leave that for next week. But this is all the hilltop, the exchange, the hostage situation, going back for her daughter, straight out of the comics. I'm just going to say it leads to a story called The Whisperer War.
I wish that they would just give her up. I mean, as someone who doesn't know the storyline, I wish that they would just give her back her daughter. Just give her back. And if Henry wants to go be a whisperer, go ahead, Henry.
Well, that's where the whole debate of like who are the villains comes in again, because our survivors that we've been following have killed way more.
Yeah, it's not our job. I mean, unless Lydia's begging to stay, which that changes the entire dynamic. If she's like, I'm being abused, please save me, I don't want to go back to that woman, then it's a whole different dynamic. But yeah.
The world police over there at the hilltop. Oof.
Lydia
has been in jail there for a minute. Henry let her out in tonight's episode. It might be all part of Detective Daryl's plans. We'll talk about Detective Daryl in just a second. But we got a comic book moment, or maybe like a tribute to one, kind of, not really at all. But I really think we should have gotten the eye lick, the eye socket lick for mission number 137, but instead we got the worm tonight, which was interesting. And in watching this scene, we sat there, we were watching the scene, and I said to you, if this was Carl, I would care about this scene so much more. Nothing against Matthew Lintz. Great job as Henry, buddy. But I was attached to Carl. I'm mad that Carl's gone. And whether she was licking his eye socket or not, as weird as that even saying that sentence is, I would have, even if she was just eating worms with Carl, this scene would have been better if it was Carl. And that was taken from us.
It absolutely would. I mean, just the comic, just looking at that right there, it's very awkward.
I remember reading this issue for the first time and being like, what in the eye? Yeah, but this is Robert Kirkman at his best. But that's an interesting moment. We should have had it on TV.
Yeah.
I don't know who to blame for it, but I'm not happy we didn't get it. But Lydia in general is just like this crazy. Are you digging Lydia and Henry at all, or do you think the storyline is just fatiguing and frustrating?
I want to. I really, really want to root for them, but for whatever reason, she's just too weird for me. I can't like her. I'm having a really hard time. Last week, I kind of had some sympathy, but then when she reached through the bars with Daryl tonight, I'm just kind of like, what do you think you're gonna do? Like, just piss him off?
She's a savage. She's just used to being a savage. She's like a wild animal at the SPCA.
Yeah.
She doesn't know what she's doing. She's just trying to survive.
She's just so unstable, and he is so grounded with like his parents now, his second set of parents.
Yeah.
That I just can't really imagine them working at all, personally. They're so opposite, but who knows? Opposites attract.
And the last thing I want to talk about before we make some predictions for the rest of the season, and maybe we know a few things, is Daryl, Detective Daryl, if you will, the new Hilltop leader? Because last week I asked everybody, leave your thoughts on who you think should be the next leader at the Hilltop. I asked you to use hashtag after the day. Eric Zubert did. Eric Zubert said Aaron should be. I saw that tweet.
Oh.
But it seems like Daryl might be the new leader at the Hilltop. I mean, Tara is the acting leader, but like, let's be honest, Daryl is running that show. I mean, it really
Behind the
seems like
scenes,
Daryl's
yeah,
running the
and I
show.
like that.
He's kind of manipulating
Yeah.
people too, which is interesting.
I really love how he's stepping up. I like how, I don't know, I think he's just really great at being a detective and a spy. He cares about his people. I love the idea of him, Daryl, stepping up. But I didn't expect it because he has kind of been so behind the scenes and quiet and on his own and separate from the group. I don't know. I didn't expect it, but I'm really happy about it. And last week, Sharon, she actually wrote, I think Carol and Daryl should share leadership. And I love that idea. Like, that would be the best thing ever if those two band together and became like.
And the thing about that
power.
is neither of them have ever wanted to be leaders.
I know, yeah.
Neither character has ever wanted to lead these groups. They just kind of fallen into these positions where people have so much respect for them that they would. And it would fit that way. I mean, Rick Grimes didn't ask to be a leader.
Yeah.
He said that when he killed Shane.
Yep.
I didn't ask for this. And then when he saw Shane this season, and he said, I didn't want to be their leader. And Shane's like, well, it happened that way, didn't it?
Yep.
So all these people on the show who become leaders, like the only one who wanted to be a leader, I think Negan,
Yep.
Gregory,
The governor.
the governor, all these people who wanted to be leaders had the wrong reasons. And all the people who are becoming leaders are just kind of falling into it, and they're the good people.
Yeah.
Alpha clearly wants to be a leader, and she's a villain.
Yeah. She's been obsessed with that, it seems like, from the moment the apocalypse even started. She wanted to be in charge, like, immediately. She stepped up. I don't know.
And it's interesting because I'm curious what her motivation was.
Yeah.
We didn't really get motivation for why she was so eager to kill that guy, kill her husband, Frankie. Frankie seemed like a decent dude.
Or even the random
Once
dude.
we got the real story.
Yeah.
Matthias, R.I.P., choked him out.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think Daryl's a fit for the Hilltop. Let us know, guys, do you agree? Or should Tara keep the reins? And before we wrap up today's show and answer a few questions, let's make a few predictions.
Okay.
Janelle, you first. Predictions. We have 6 episodes left in season 9. The floor is yours.
I mean, I'm not excited about it, but I think the relationship between Lydia and Henry is going to progress, which I don't want that to happen, but you know, you don't always get what you want. I think that hopefully people like you, people have told me that it's going to pick up. We're going to see more action, which is what I was looking for. I want more like blood and guts. One of the things that I kind of made a note of was, why isn't there like slime like dripping off of these masks, these skins when they take them off? Like they're like, did they figure out to put like hides in there or something? I want to know why. Like that's something that I really want to know. And also that had so much potential to be disgusting, like way grosser than just like a mask on the ground.
Although when they take it off, that sound effect when it hits the ground, like if you watch the bridge scene, it's like, oh, oh, that's really Walker guts there. Anything else you got?
Oh gosh, just I hope more madness happens. I feel like for me, because I don't cheat, I don't know anything that's going to happen in the future. Mine are more hopes and dreams. Yours are actual predictions.
Well, there were some episode titles and synopsis that made their way online earlier this week. For the rest of the season, each episode's title and synopsis came out.
Also, I am lucky because I get to try to avoid every spoiler.
That's what I do with Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I don't spoil Game of Thrones for me. It's
Not at
impossible. I
all.
could probably write you a script for every episode
Yeah.
this season of Walking Dead. But so as a fan, I'll say without spoiling anything, based on the synopsis that came out, synopses, I think that the Pikes are coming this season. The heads on the Pikes that fans keep talking about. I don't think Ezekiel's head will be on that Pike. And we're going to see snow. So that's really cool. We're going to get a blizzard.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
And I have seen some of the snow stuff. Yo, it is cool.
Oh
Walkers covered in snow. I mean, it is.
Like White Walkers covered in snow?
I'm just saying Game of Thrones starts probably a week later, so crossover confirmed.
Yes.
But there is some cool stuff. There is some emotional moments coming this season.
Okay.
Some strong deviations from the comics are coming up, but also kind of homages following it. Like they're going to vary. They're going to make deviations, but keep the scene kind of in several instances. And we're going to have a big flashback episode as well.
Nice.
Or maybe not an entire flashback episode, but there will be flashbacks. We will see characters who are dead now, again.
What?
And stuff like that. So there's cool stuff coming up. Before we wrap up, I think Janelle has been saving a few questions throughout the show. So
Yes.
let's answer
Okay,
some.
Sergio is asking, and this is great because some people didn't catch this and some people don't read the comics as before. And I know we have covered this, but Sergio is asking, so is Henry going to carry on Carl's storyline or will it be like cut, like short-lived?
Well, like, are you asking if Henry's going to die then? I mean,
Or Lydia, whatever.
we're clearly, or Lydia, we're clearly seeing Henry step into the Carl story pretty heavily. But how long will that continue? I don't know. I think that until Henry or Lydia are not on the show anymore, you will continue to see Carl's comic book story go to Henry, which is bittersweet.
Yeah.
Like, tonight would have been better if it was Carl.
Right.
But at least we got something.
was good. You know, slim pickings in the apocalypse to find people your age when you're a kid that have actually survived long enough to find a mate.
I
will
can't
say
imagine
that.
being 18
Yeah.
in the apocalypse and
Because you were one of the very few.
I'd be like, oh, you're a whisperer. Don't
Yeah.
care. Come over.
Legit, one of the very few that made it through since
You up?
childhood.
2 a.m. in your jail cell? You up?
Oh my God. Okay. We have another question. Ashley's asking, will Norman take care of the children when Michonne leaves? Or what will happen to them? We're getting a lot of these questions.
Yeah,
What is going to
everyone's-
happen? Well, first of all, we haven't seen Rick and Michonne's son, like, but one time.
Right, RJ, Rick Jr.
Yeah.
I think if Michonne leaves, there's no way she leaves the kids behind. And this is going back, if you guys are unfamiliar, this is going back to what we talked about last week, Denai Guerrera apparently leaving the show in season 10. Many of us suspect she's going to leave and go look for Rick. I think she has to take the kids with her. Also, speaking of kids, if you didn't catch this in tonight's episode, there was a little rabbit on the ground in that flashback scene, which I'm almost positive was the same rabbit that Gracie had in her crib. And because when I was on set for season 8, the prop master told me that they had this rabbit. He showed me the rabbit and he said they needed to get 2 copies of it, one that was brand new and one that they could age up about 6 years.
Yeah.
So it seems that for some reason, and I don't think it's going to end up being very important, but that rabbit is the rabbit that Gracie has.
What are the odds?
Yeah, I don't know. That's like a rhythm. I don't think The Walking Dead understands Easter eggs. Like in Lost, that would have had a point.
Yes.
But on this, it's just like, oh.
If you're really
There's
paying
that rabbit.
attention, here's like a throw. I don't know.
Comicbook.com will write a story about this. Oh, guess what? We did.
Oh
Thank
my
you for
gosh.
the story.
I'm actually really curious about a lot of, I know everyone is going to keep asking about this, the movies, of course. Chris is asking, so Rick really isn't dead. I think a lot of people are confused with how that ended with Jadis and the helicopter and Rick coming to. We haven't talked about this in a really long time, and it is going to kind of go in with the movies. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, the movies are going to pick up basically where that left off. And like kind of, I've said it before, so I'll say it. And like the northeast corner of the U.S., at least that was the plan originally. Could change. So if I'm wrong, it's because they changed things. But it's going to pick up there. It's going to go into like sci-fi elements. Rick is still alive. Jadis should be there. Pollyanna McIntosh expects to be reprising her role for those movies. And I think maybe not in the first of the 3 Rick Grimes movies, but we will see other Walking Dead characters or Fear the Walking Dead characters pop into those movies.
Laura's asked about that possible Madison Clark cameo in the Rick Grimes movie.
Ooh, Madison Clark. I know everybody wants Madison Clark back. I also kind of want Madison Clark back, but I don't think we will see Kim Dickens in this universe again. I think it would be smart to bring her back. You'd please a lot of people. It would not be another dumpster dive for Glenn. It wouldn't have been a fake out death. But while we're on the topic, I think if you're interested in Rick's story, you will be interested in Fear the Walking Dead Season 5.
Ooh.
Rick is not on Fear the Walking Dead Season 5 that I know of.
Okay.
But there are elements to the upcoming season of Fear the Walking Dead which you will enjoy, and they're going to make the universe a little bit smaller.
Okay, we have one more question about the movies, and
right.
I'm curious about this. I'm grabbing these questions because I'm very curious about the movies. I'm just like holding out hope
Trying
for
to get me
cameos.
to say something I shouldn't.
Yeah, I've been trying
to get me to
so
spill
bad.
something I shouldn't say.
Oh my gosh.
I see what you're doing here.
It's so true though. Wendy is asking, are the movies going to be on the big screen or on TV?
The current plan is to release them on AMC.
Okay.
I would love it. I think it would be super smart for them to just at least give them a one-night release.
Yeah.
Like that, I would go to the movies too.
Me
movie theater.
too.
I mean, probably have to be here to do the show, so I wouldn't be able to go.
No,
but if we could,
we'd do it at the movie theater.
I'm down. So
party.
I think maybe because The Walking Dead has played in theaters before. They did the 100th episode. They did the Fear the Walking Dead crossover.
Oh my gosh.
They did one night in theaters. So that could be a possibility, but they will definitely be airing as of right now on AMC. So that's where those are at. So
I want to close, I have one more. This isn't even a question. This is a comment, and I grabbed it from last week because I loved it. Kelly said they need to start a new show, maybe The Walking Dead Lost Years or something. That gave me goosebumps.
like flashbacks?
Yes.
Yeah, that is what I wanted in tonight's episode.
Yeah.
Was an adventure in the early days of the apocalypse.
Yeah.
And if they do another spin-off, don't do it in the 7 years, 8 years into the apocalypse.
Right.
Do it while the world is falling apart.
Yeah.
What Fear the Walking Dead Season 1 should have been. Fear the Walking Dead Season 1 chose to focus on family drama and this weird, the audience was so much smarter than the characters because we knew about the apocalypse. The characters didn't, and that frustrated people. And it kind of harped on the issues of morality that The Walking Dead had touched on before. Focus on the government. Focus on the army. We got touches of that in Fear the Walking Dead. I would love to see why the world fell the way it did. And I think that's a big story, and it's a hard one to tell in a way that's acceptable. So maybe that's why they steered clear of it. But I would love to see flashbacks. I would love to see the early days of the apocalypse. Don't start pre-apocalypse. Start
see the early
day
days of each of these characters and how they ended up kind of crossing paths. Like she said, I wish they'd show, Beth's original story and how they found out, or I mean, not me. I want to know what's going on with Glenn.
But imagine. But here's the thing: most of the characters we've encountered through Rick, they've had really boring stories up until Rick came around. Everybody in Alexandria was just chilling in Alexandria.
Yeah, you're
But
right.
there are other characters, like the hospital people, the Vatos from the first season.
I loved that.
So
yeah, their story was
there's
great.
other characters we could use. You could show me how the governor rose to power in Woodbury. I mean, it doesn't have to be the governor.
We have the book, the books.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, they go into so much detail about how he wasn't, spoiler, how the governor isn't really even who he says he is. He's actually the brother of who he says he is.
I would love that.
Brother.
I would love that story.
He takes on the identity of his brother and starts acting savage. His brother was a savage, drunk, jerk, crazy dude.
Yeah.
It's so nice.
Characters like Dwight and Simon and Negan and the governor and Michonne would make really good stories for I mean, it could be a one-off flashback movie or episode, and I think we'll get the Negan flashback eventually.
Good.
But I don't know about the rest of them. Dwight is part of the Negan flashback, so that could be really interesting in terms of the Here's Negan story. We're not getting a Negan flashback story this season. I would love to see just a one-off movie that drops in the middle of the summer.
Oh my gosh.
That'd be so cool. That'd be great. That'd be great. Hopefully, I think we'll get some big news at Comic-Con this year in regards to movies and the expanding universe and all that sort of stuff. In the meantime, I'll just sit here and keep saying things I might get in trouble for saying. So thank you for the questions, Janelle, and the comment section. This is After the Dead, everybody. We do it every Sunday night. We really would appreciate it if you just hit that share button on Facebook and share it with your friends. We got over 150,000 views on our mid-season premiere episode last week. Can't thank you enough, guys. That means the world that you're watching us, and I hope you're having a good time. If you want to see something next week, use hashtag AfterTheDead on social media, Instagram, Twitter. We're always monitoring it. You might be featured on the show, and you can hit us up anytime at Janelle Wheeler on the tweets, the Instagrams, the Twitch streams. I am at Brandon Davis BD, and I love talking to you guys. So please hit us up, and this has been After the Dead. We'll see you next Sunday.